And you've just heard Vanessa by Nathan Somevi from the EP Brave, and I'm delighted to be joined by Nathan himself. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really well, thanks. Yeah. So what can you tell us about Vanessa and the other songs on Brave?
Vanessa is it's my favorite one on the EP. It came from I was practicing something and I made a mistake and I liked the mistake. And then Matej Sobieski joined in and helped to kind of flesh it out. And then now Ford came in and then did his thing. And it was one of those things that kind of wrote itself. Just I was just messing around with something else, and then Vanessa kind of just happened.
It's interesting because having spoken to a few jazz musicians, and they talk a lot about the importance of kind of improvisation and, and that, is that more likely to happen in jazz, that you'll do something that you go, yeah, I like that. I wasn't meaning to do it, I hadn't planned to do it, but it does sometimes happen.
Yes, a lot, and you have to be very open to. You have to just be very open to allowing yourself to allowing new things to happen, and not being so hell bent on going a certain direction, because sometimes the mistake you play might be better than the idea you had. So that's my thing. I think with jazz music, yeah, I don't even do you know what? I don't actually think of myself as a jazz musician. I just surround myself with jazz musicians, which makes me sound like a jazz musician. I don't think I'm that much of a jazz music. I don't think I'm that much of a jazz guitar player. I
Right.
think I play with a saxophone player who's very jazzy and a drummer who's very jazzy. So everything kind of sounds like jazz. But if I was by myself, I don't know if the genre would change. But yeah, I'm very much a fan of Happy Accidents.
And so why did you choose these musicians to work with? Was that your decision, or was it just something that
So
happened?
yeah, Glasgow has well, before, especially before the pandemic, had a quite a nice jam scene.
Yeah.
You had the Box Jam on a Saturday, and then you had Slouch. You had a few jams at Slouch, and then you just had jams all about Glasgow. And the musicians that would turn up are the jazz musicians. They're the ones who had the confidence to just go up and play wherever. I think a lot of non-jazz musicians. Well, I mean, not there are a lot of musicians that are comfortable enough to rock up and play, but a lot of jazz musicians that they live there. That's what they do. They improvise. So they live off that kind of anxiety of not knowing what they're gonna play. So I just kind of befriended some jazz musicians, and also it helped that I playing the hybrid guitar as well, which was kind of brought some intrigue. So it's like I'm not just a guitar player, so it's like a cool project that they could join in. So I like their sound. I like the way they played. I like the way they communicated. It's not really about the instrument they play per se, it's just about the way they communicate their musical ideas. So I just kind of liked the way they sounded. So that's why I chose them. And the drummer now Ford, we've just been friends since I used to live in Aberdeen. We've been friends since Aberdeen, and he was very keen and he's very talented and he's got good ideas. And then also the other drummer, Ife Daddy Thomas as well. I've known him since I was 19. Started off playing in church, so he's one of the church drummers. He goes down in folklore as like the best church drummer in Scotland. So yeah, so that's why I picked them.
Oh, that's really interesting that there
Yeah,
is such a thing as people who, I guess, you come across musicians all over the place. It's not just in bars and in,
yeah.
sessions, but you'll meet them all the time.
Hmm.
And so you say Vanessa's your favorite track on the EP, but tell
Hmm.
us a little bit about the others as well.
So Vanessa's the first one. It's my favorite one. And then track two is Brave. Brave was something I wrote like maybe like 2 years ago. Um, it was after a lesson I had with, I don't know if you're familiar with a guitar player in Glasgow called Ben Mack. Ben,
No, no.
I had a lesson off him, and he was teaching me. See, this the way I'm going to describe it is very like I don't really write from people. When I hear people talk about their music, they usually talk about their feelings and stuff. But it's very much a very technical place. I had a lesson with him when he was teaching me about like different ways of looking at the fretboard. So
Right.
then basically the pentatonic scale. Let me just be boring. We're talking about a pentatonic scale, 5 note scale, and he was like, you could mishmash different pentatonic scales together. So that whole if you hear the intro,
Hmm.
it's just me like playing the pentatonic scale in 2 different keys. So that was the whole premise of that whole thing was to try and figure out ways to, and then the rest when you have that initial spark, then the rest kind of writes itself. So that was it's the longest composition I've ever written, and it was my first attempt at playing a guitar solo on that guitar as well. So that's why it was so long, because I wanted to actually challenge myself, because I'm playing the bass as well at the same
Hmm.
time as playing the guitar. So that was the first time I was like, okay, I'm going to play a solo, and that was brave. Brave was I called it brave because it reminded me, and I also used to play with a singer in Glasgow called Scarlett Randall. I don't know if you're familiar. Yeah, you are familiar with Scarlett Randall.
Yeah.
So I play with her. So she has a song called Breathe, and it ended up sounding something like her song called Breathe a little bit. Not a lot. You wouldn't be able to recognize it, but it reminded me of her song Breathe. So I called it Brave, just because that's why it's called Brave, because it kind of sounds like Breathe. So that's Brave, and then Allure Me is actually a cover, but
Right.
it's feeling like the most popular from the numbers. It's feeling like the most popular track on the EP, and I think it's because it's easier to listen to,
Right.
um, because it's just a head and it's just quite a simple head, and then it's solos, right? So it's an old folk song. It's in Yoruba. I'm not Yoruba, but I've spent a lot of time with people who are Yoruba. Um, if you don't know what Yoruba is a tribe, in the biggest tribe in Africa.
Right.
So they speak a language called Yoruba. So they have a folk song. It's a gospel folk song. So it's a gospel folk song called Olorimi. The full title is Olorimi Mowa Dukbe, but I just shortened it Olorimi. So that was just my take on that track. And then him him was just one of those ones that wrote another one that wrote itself. It reminded me of like a hymn that you hear in church, but I just kind of jazzed up him. Initially, I recorded it with an organ, but I just felt like it wasn't really fitting with the. Maybe I released the one with the organ as well. Maybe I'll release it just
Yeah.
for the banner. But yeah, it was like a very churchy sounding. It was actually recorded in church, so there's a lot of reverb and on it, but it was legitimately recorded in the church. If your daddy Thomas was on drums, so that was my homage to the church, the musical education I had in church, basically.
And are we talking like an old school stone church with all the kind of sound that can have?
Yes, it literally has a massive pipe organ, and yeah, but yeah, it was bought over by it was bought over like maybe 10 years ago, or maybe was it 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and yeah, it yeah, it's a proper church. It's a proper church looking church. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's interesting hearing you talking about your music. You say that some people say it comes from emotion or it comes from,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But it sounds to me like you are enjoying testing yourself as a musician and what you can do.
Yeah.
The songs, it's actually almost it's the music comes first rather than anything else.
hmm Yeah. So it's all about I compose the compositions comes from when I learn something new and when I gain a new perspective. So it's always about like adding levels of difficulty. To be honest, that's really what it is. Just adding levels, adding just like layers and layers of difficulty to but in a way where it's you can't. I want the compositions to not feel like they're difficult. I want them to only. I want only the people who know how to play the guitar to know that it's difficult. I don't want people who don't know anything about music to feel like, oh, this guy's playing something crazy. I want it to sound simple, but then people who actually know how to play the guitar, they'll know, okay, this is actually. So yeah, I had the guy who invented the guitar played Charlie Hunter. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
No.
Charlie Hunter invented the guitar play. I've had a few conversations with him, and he was very much during lockdown, we had like group meetings with all the people who had these guitars, and he was just basically explaining that it's when he was younger, he was trying to make the thing sound really complicated. He says that he threw that all away. It's more about, he calls them covert chops. They have to be covert. You have to people that have to not notice how good you are. You don't want people
Yeah,
to know
yeah,
how good you
yeah.
are. Yeah,
You're almost kind of sneaking in that there's a
yeah,
level of
yeah,
skill going on here, but you don't
yeah,
want the person to know it. I get that. Yeah.
yeah. So the you want it. You want the music to stand for itself, and you don't want to distract people. To be honest, like when people are that good, you kind of get distracted by how good they are. So you want to not. You want the music to come first. You want your chops to aid the music that you're presenting. You don't want it to be like a showcase of, look how good I am.
Yeah, that's that kind of idea that to make anything seem effortless, you've got to put in a hell of a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
And you said you don't consider yourself a jazz musician or a jazz guitarist, but I'm interested then, who are your influences? Who do you kind of, who kind of got you playing the guitar, I guess, in the first place?
Who got me playing the guitar? Well, the guitar was okay. So the reason why I started playing the guitar was when I was a kid. Um, my older brother had piano lessons, and I used to sit next to him when he had his piano lessons, and then I used to like try and do what he was doing. I can read music, but he could. I used to kind of do it by ear,
Mm-hmm.
and he was getting all the love and all the attention, and I wasn't. And I wanted that love and attention, so I was learning the keyboard. But then I wanted to kind of outdo him without feeling like I was copying him, because you know the sibling rivalry thing. What happens when you're, because we're only a year apart, so
Right.
um, so I wanted to basically outdo him, but without looking like I was outdoing him. So I picked up the guitar, and we both, because we're both grew up in church. My parents, we went to church every week. Um, we had a place to basically showcase our skills. So basically, that's why I played the guitar. It was not really, there was not really a guitar player I would say, oh, this is the guitar player who made me want to play the guitar. It was not really. I was just trying to basically
Do better than your brother.
destroy my brother. Basically, I just wanted to, yeah. But it was good because we both pushed each other at that stage
Yeah.
in our lives, so it was good. So, and it also worked out because it meant that we could actually play together. It wasn't like
Yeah.
actually competition. It was a healthy competition. So yeah, and then later on, he started not taking it as seriously, and then I was taking it more seriously, and then I was listening to started then like when I was like maybe 17, 18, because I started playing when I was 10. Then I started looking at guitar players like George Benson, and then I was listening to a lot of like R&B albums with these cool chords that they were using, and then I had a very 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 intense phase where I was listening to a lot of Martin Taylor and Joe Pass.
Right.
So I did dedicate proper time to study that style, the Martin Taylor Joe Pass style, and then I discovered Charlie Hunter when I was 19, and then I said I need that guitar. So then when I was 23 or 24, I got his guitar. So yeah, these are my influences really.
Yeah. So that, I mean, they're fairly sophisticated and complex musicians themselves that
Yeah,
you're kind of working with. That's really interesting in itself. And you mentioned about working with these other jazz musicians. It does seem to me that jazz in Scotland is in a particularly healthy state at the moment. There's a lot of fantastic musicians around. Would you agree with that?
yes, there is yeah, especially in I'm not sure. I live in Glasgow, so I'm not sure about the Edinburgh scene, but yeah, the Royal Conservatoire is like literally, I would say, the catalyst for that.
Mm.
The jazz course, we're just getting just an influx like they just keep, every year they're producing these insanely good musicians that you can just like that you can just pick up and then work with them. So yeah, the it's in a very good state. Yeah, just the quality of music that it's producing is very cool. Hopefully it just gets as like gets huge and it gets like renowned for just this Scottish jazz thing for it in its own. So yeah, it's really cool to be hopefully to be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And it is amazing. I agree with you. Every year, there's a new name or a new, and often there's this desire to collaborate and experiment as well. Some of them are branching into dance music, to hip hop, into ambient music, and to all sorts of different things. But it seems to me that they're at their core, and you kind of mentioned it right at the beginning, is this willingness to try things out and to experiment and to improvise.
Yeah, very important. Just to let go of your inhibitions, let go of your expectations, and trying to let what's the word? Trying to let serendipity create something new. Trying to let the universe create something. Trying to let whatever your belief system is. Trying to let, let's say, God speak through you. So just let go of yourself and then let the music come out through you.
And that idea that you spoke about with Vanessa, how you find what might be a mistake or at least not meant, and that's, you decide it is meant, that there is a reason for that happening.
Exactly. So,
and you mentioned working with Scarlett Randall earlier. You've collaborated with quite a few different people over the years. Do you enjoy that kind of side of things where you're not maybe front and center, but you are, part of the collaboration?
The whole me doing like making music thing was initially because I wanted to collaborate with more people. So the purpose of it wasn't actually to be to have my name out there. The purpose of it was to have like a portfolio so that people can see what I can do, so that more people would want to work with me. That's why. So the initial thing for me was that I just wanted to work with more people. I was working with people and I wanted to work with more people. So I made an EP, but then it actually benefited me as an individual. So then it kind of that kind of made me change my perspective and thinking of myself more as an individual rather than like a part of someone else's situation. So yeah.
So, and that goes to playing live. I know you played at the Glad Cafe fairly recently. Is that right?
Yes. Played at Glad Cafe.
Yeah. So
it wasn't that recently. It was like December, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's right. This is June.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But are there plans to play further live gigs? And what kind of setup would we expect from a Nathan Somevi live gig?
So, well, there's the Edinburgh Jazz Festival in Edinburgh on the 14th of July in the I'm forgetting the name of the venue, the something house, jazz house.
Well, it rings a bell, but I'd have to check. I
I'm
will
gonna have to check
and let people know.
Yes, yeah. There's that, and there's a few more things that have not been finalized yet though. There's a few gigs that have not been finalized yet. I'm doing another one in the Glad Cafe.
Oh, great.
And then so sorry, what was the question?
And what do you expect? Yeah, what's the setup? Yeah.
The setup at the moment is drums, saxophone, and my hybrid guitar. So we try and make 3 people sound like 4 people or 5. So drum, saxophone, and my hybrid guitar. That's the setup at the moment. I am working on one of the gigs that are happening in June and July. I am working on trying to remove the saxophone and putting in a keyboard player instead. But yeah, at this very moment, it is drums, saxophone, hybrid guitar. But later on, this is the run of drums, saxophone, and hybrid guitar is not going to go on for too long. I'm going to change up. I'm going to change it up because I feel like doing something different. So this will probably, never say never, but probably be the last year of me doing drums, saxophone, and hybrid guitar. I'm going to go in quite a different direction. Coming forward, I just feel like that the time for that for myself and the challenge is kind of gone away. And yeah, I can still write in that kind of way, but I think it's good for people to expand and try something else.
I mean, again, it sounds like you're really wanting to test yourself and challenge yourself, and that's right at the center of kind of what you do.
Yeah. Try and make myself sweat. Make myself suffer.
Interested even, and you mentioned on Brave, and you gave the reasons why it's called Brave. It sounded to me it might be brave because of what you're undertaking yourself on the track.
I think yeah,
bass and guitar and all of these things.
yeah.
But you've got this. You mentioned that the kind of hybrid guitar. I mean, is it just another challenge? You can't just pick that up if you can play a few chords. I take it you've really got to learn the instrument.
Well, hybrid guitar is a very, very, very interesting situation because I like playing bass. Because in church, because I used to play in two churches on a Sunday. I used to play one in the morning, one in the evening. In the morning, I would play bass. In the evening, I would play the guitar. So I really liked playing the bass. And but when I was playing the bass, I'd miss playing the guitar. And then when I was playing guitar, I wish I was playing the bass. And then I discovered Charlie Hunter. It's hard. It's hard to play. You need to really, really, really understand guitar in a very different way. We're not strumming chords. You're not, and people think you're splitting parts. You're not splitting parts. You're stitching parts together. So you're stitching little segments of guitar and bass together to make it seem like you're stitching two parts together. So it's a whole way of thinking. When I was speaking to Charlie Hunter about his methodology, he said it's like collecting baseball cards. You're collecting a set of baseball cards. So each day you need a new baseball cards, and you can put your baseball cards together. That's how he describes it. So, it's fun. You feel like you're in control of the music when you're playing that instrument. It's just like you're just in control of the whole frequencies of the low end and the high end, and it's like everyone is at your whim. Like no one can do anything, and no one can go in any direction unless you say. If you change the key, everyone has to change the key. Do you know what I mean? It's such a powerful instrument.
It sounds incredible I mean, even the thought of trying to play it, gives me the fear. But is it the fact that you're controlling the rhythm and you're kind of controlling the melody at the same time?
Controlling the rhythm and the melody, but mostly the rhythm. Yes, yeah, controlling the rhythm and the melody. Some compositions I'm controlling the melody at the same time. To be honest, it's the most joy I get out playing the guitar is on that hybrid guitar. It just fills me with so much, just fills me with so much joy because of just the way it sounds and the way it feels, and it just you get that extra string where you can just go lower and you can play these voicings that are so wide and spread apart. So yeah, it's just it gives me, so the work that I had to put in is not really, it pales in comparison to what I get out of it. So it doesn't really matter how long it takes to get whatever I'm trying to do. Just as long as I can get that sound and make myself feel that feeling, then I'm happy.
Well, I really must come along and see you play that live because it sounds amazing. Nathan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really do appreciate it.
I appreciate you for bringing me along. That was awesome of you.
And this is Nathan Somevi and All Around Me.